Good evening. Welcome to PoliticIt podcast. Tonight we have Rod Hall, candidate for the State School Board District 3.
Yes, sir.
And Rod, I want to talk about you a little bit because you've got a really unique story, and you're currently the youth pastor, right,
yes,
at Faith Baptist Church in Layton.
Yes, sir.
It's so great to have you. I've been watching you from afar, and you're that beacon of light.
I appreciate that.
Why don't you tell us tell our audience a little bit about you and what makes you unique?
So I'll tell you a little bit about me currently. Okay. So I've been a youth pastor for 25 years, married for 26 years, have 5 children, 2 beautiful grandchildren. I serve currently as an Honorary Wing Commander up at Hill Air Force Base for the 308 Fighter Wing. Also a police chaplain for the Salt Lake PD. And I was a teacher for 10 years, junior high and high school.
Oh.
And so it's been a great journey, but I haven't always been where I am today. And so I've been here since I was 10 years old. My father was in the military. That's what brought us here to Utah. And just like every kid, you're trying to get to know people and formulate groups of people you spend time with. And made some choices in my junior high year that opened up a door in my life that I'm not proud of, but it's a door nevertheless that was opened up. I started using drugs when I was 14 years old in junior high school. By the time I was 17 years old till I was 21, I was a drug addict. And my life was in shambles. It was a wreck. I went in and out of treatment programs, and the last treatment program that I went to was ranked number 2 in the nation. Supposed to be one of the best treatment programs in our country, and I used drugs the day that I got out. Nobody knew it. I hid it. I was married at the time, just newly married. And I knew that I was on my last straw with my wife, and I hid it from her. And nobody knew that I had used drugs. I was standing out on my deck the next day, and my mom showed up at my house. She's a person of faith and has been since I was a little kid. Prayed for me. I'm a product of prayer, by the way. Prayed for me my whole life growing up. And she walked into my apartment and out to my back deck, and she looked at me in my face and she said, "Don't play games with God." And she turned around and walked out of my apartment. And I felt like God himself spoke to me that day, and my life changed. I got on my face before God and I said, "I've made a mess of my life. I don't want to continue in this direction. Would you please take me and do something with my life?" And God turned me around. He changed me from the inside out. I never really did have a personal, intimate relationship with God, and I did from that day forward. And God began to move in my life and give me a passion for young people. I started working in the youth ministry early on. I was 22 years old and just helping out and serving here and there, and then began to invest in the lives of young people to try to keep them from going down the same track that I went down. Shortly after that, probably a year and a half later, we started a program called Reformers Unanimous. It was a Christ-centered faith-based addictions program that at many times had over 100 people coming to it. We had over a 90% success rate. We ran that program for 10 years.
Wow.
And saw great things happen.
Now, was that here in Utah?
I was here in Utah, and the impact of it still ripples throughout our state. And the only reason that I shut that program down, is because my son started playing Friday night football in high school. And I really needed somebody to take that program, but it was a difficult program to run. We had an intensive outpatient program, and there was just a lot of checks and balances, a lot of paperwork, a lot of things that needed to be done. But I wanted it was every Friday night, 52 weeks a year. It didn't matter if it fell on a holiday. We always had Reformers Unanimous 52 weeks a year. And so I needed somebody to run that program for me on Friday nights just during football season, but I couldn't get anybody to step into that role. And I don't know if it was God just kind of letting us know that chapter was time to go ahead and close that, but we did. And I'm glad I chose my son in that case. He's gone on to be a great man. He's a husband, a father, and a great young man. But that's a choice that I made for that time in my life.
Very good. So what took you to this mission of youth minister?
You know, I just felt compelled to do that. I can't really put it into words. I felt compelled to work with young people. My pastor at the time, which was Pastor David Ellis, began to give me some responsibilities, and I didn't really know what he was doing. He saw it in me before I saw it in myself. But he could see that God had a leading in my life towards that. And he asked me to share my story. I shared my story, asked me to give a lesson, and he was there. And one day he asked me to do it, and he didn't show up. And I said, I don't know what's going on, but if I need you to be there, just for the comfort.
Right.
He goes, you know what? I think you got this. And that's kind of what started my launch in the youth ministry, and that's where my heart's been for the last 25 years.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've interacted with your pastor, Bickle, Chuck Bickle, and what a great mission you guys are accomplishing.
Thank you.
And I noticed at the when I was down at the state convention, man, you had an army.
And that wasn't just our church people. That was people from the community. I think we had almost 200 volunteers there that day, folks from all different backgrounds, and people that just said, you know what, we love you, we want to get behind you. We're going to get up at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning and get our kids ready and come down there and support you. And it meant a lot to us.
So what motivated you to move? I know you were involved with us in the legislature.
Yes,
you were very helpful when we were had the DEI bill that came forward. What motivated you in that?
So about a year ago, God really impressed on my heart to run for public office, and I thought, city council, something like that. I had no idea it was going to be this. So spoke to my wife about it. We prayed about it. There was no opportunities at that time, so I kind of put it on the shelf. Well, when this opportunity came up, people began to reach out to me. People from the school board, people from the community, reach out to me about this position. And my initial reaction was, I don't think so. I don't think this is what I'm supposed to do. But as I began to pray and ponder it and really think about it and give it to the Lord, God really moved on my heart. And I was talking to a school board member, a current school board member, when I was walking over the Brooklyn Bridge. I was there in November on a missions trip, actually in December on a missions trip, and I got confirmation. When I was having that conversation, walking over the Brooklyn Bridge, it's like God just impressed on my heart, this is exactly what I want you to do. And once I said yes, the doors just flung wide open, and it's been an incredible journey for us. I've never experienced anything like this before in my life. I mean, nobody told me what it really takes to run for office, but it's been an amazing journey nevertheless.
Yeah, you've been inspirational to a lot of people along this path, and we're really excited for your candidacy here. So tell me, you were really involved with the DEI bill.
Yes, sir.
And what motivated you there? Because that was coming from your position that may have been why did you come out the way you did?
To me, I believe it's one of the most destructive things that has made its way into our community. And I've been in Utah since I was 10 years old. This is a beautiful place. There's really no place like this place. And people want to say things about Utah, but this is not a racist place. I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist here.
Right.
This is not a racist place. My family's from Albany, Georgia. My parents were the first to integrate white schools there in Newton, Georgia. And it's still a lot of segregation there. This is not a racist place. It's a special place. I don't think there's any place like it in this country. But there's an underlying. It's almost like a disease that has crept in with this doctrine of DEI. And anytime you decide to divide somebody with an oppressor and oppressed mind state, you create, it's a great division between people. And anytime you decide that you want to give somebody something for nothing, it's not going to help their life. It's going to hurt their life. And so what I've seen DEI do many times is you have this inclusion where everybody's included unless you don't agree with what everybody else says. Right. And there's diversity, but really no diversity of thought. And so it's created categories. It's separated people into categories, even by race and all different types of things. And so I have this analogy that I think of. If you take somebody who's on first base, and this is what DEI does, and you put them on home, everything they were supposed to get from first to second, from second to third, from third to home, they miss out on all that. All the character traits, all the trials and tribulation, all of the building that God would have done in their life. And I'm not saying they couldn't have made it to home. I think they would have made it to home at some point, but they would have been ready to be there. DEI says this: I'm going to take you because of the color of your skin or because of your sexual orientation, and we believe that you've been mistreated, so we're going to put you here. And it doesn't help anybody. I think it only hurts people to do that. And also it develops a victim mindset. And we don't want people to experience that. I think that you can do anything that you set your mind to. I think you are who you are becoming. And I think we need to teach people that you can dig deep, and this is the United States of America. You can become whatever you want to become.
Yeah.
Yeah. God's
Very
taken
good.
me, and he's brought me from the bottom up. He can do that in anybody's life.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We're going to take a break.
Yes, sir.
We'll be right back.
Thank you. I'm Rod Hall, running for State School Board 3. As a teacher and community leader for over 25 years, I've been able to speak life and hope into the lives of thousands of young people. The future of our youth is very important to me. We need to strengthen Utah's education system. A strong education doesn't produce better test takers. It creates young people that are pathfinders. Let's reinforce the foundation and create a pathway to success for every Utah student. On your ballot, vote Rod Hall. I'm Rod Hall, running for State School Board 3. As a community leader for over 25 years, I'm ready to serve the families of this great state. Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Together we can strengthen Utah's education system, a system that empowers parents, encourages and supports teachers, and doesn't just create learners, but is a pathway that will empower students to become world changers. On your ballot, vote Rod Hall.
Welcome back to PoliticIt. We've got Rod Hall today, and Rod is a candidate for the State School Board District 3.
Yes, sir.
So, Rod, we talked a little bit about your background, and you can kind of see this motivation coming. Why the State School Board? What do you think that Rod Hall can do that others haven't done, or right? What do you want to accomplish?
Well, I'll tell you what we've seen that's kind of helped us with that, the mindset. We work with about 12-year-olds all the way to 30-year-olds, and we help young people transition from 7th grade or 6th grade into 7th grade, from junior high school into high school, and then from high school into college and career. We've done that for many years with thousands of young people. And what we've noticed in the last 5 or 6 years, and this literally, you go back 6 years, we begin to see the change and the trend that young people struggle to read. They weren't reading at grade level. They couldn't count change. They couldn't do basic math. They struggle with interpersonal skills, getting going in life. And somebody coined this phrase, and it wasn't me, but 25 is a new 18. It's real. What young people could do at 18, now it's taking them to like 25 years old. And there's some things that are missing, some key components. And so I believe our education system needs to be strengthened. I believe that there's some key things that are missing, have been taken out of our education system that need to be replaced. Number one, parents need to be engaged again in their young person's education. I brought something I wanted to read quickly, if I could, for you. This is state law, and you probably already know what it says. But it says, number one, that parents are a child's first teacher and are responsible for the education of their children, number one, which coincides with what God says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, will not depart from it. He also says, as arrows in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. And so as parents, it's our job to give our kids a proper launch, which means we need to be plugged in and we need to be involved. And we've seen parents begin to take a step back in this area, and we want to call parents back in to the place of being engaged with their young people and involved in their education again. And then secondly, it says this, establishing and implementing educational goals for the respective schools and students. And so this is talking about the participation of parents in establishing and implementing educational goals for their respective schools. So parents were always supposed to be involved in the goal making for schools with standards and everything else. And we've moved to a place in our state where most of our standards are nationalized standards. I think we have control of about 15%. Parents are supposed to be involved in that process. But it goes on to say this is one of my favorite parts, in establishing and implementing educational goals and participating in decision-making at the school site. Parents were always supposed to be plugged in where they could at the school site. And so the selection of education programs in our state was never intended to be done without the consent of parents. And so now that we've got all these different things that have made their way in and made their way out of our education system, and we've got to fight to bring those things back in. I think what happens when parents walk back in on the scene is immediately you get a stability to schools. And you also get accountability in schools once again, because parents are in the place where they need to be. But also we need a cohesive relationship between teachers and parents. And if you talk to you talk to parents, you talk to teachers, you'll find out many teachers don't like parents, and parents don't like teachers. And there's been almost an intentional division that's been driven between parents and teachers.
Yeah, this adversarial relationship.
And it's just not the case. We need each other. We have to find a way to come together. And I believe that we can bring that kind of a spirit into into our schools, that we want to help build a cohesive relationship with parents. And I think a lot of it comes through messaging. Parents and teachers, a lot of it comes through messaging because parents just don't understand what teachers go through. They don't. You think that teachers go, they teach through the day, they clock out, they go home. Most teachers work 55 to 60 hours a week. Now, I know there's some bad apples in there, right?
Right.
But for the most part in Utah, the majority of our teachers, we have some amazing, amazing teachers. And what they deal with is on a 10 from a scale of 1 to 10, the things they have to go through. So not just the time that they spend teaching and after hours too as well, bringing their work home, but the behavioral issues in the classroom. As we've been on the campaign trail, we've begun to engage with teachers. And it's really helped my mindset and really helped my heart towards teachers. I just didn't know all that they went through. I knew that there was a great turnover rate. I didn't understand why. I didn't understand it was because they don't feel like they have support from administrators, staff, even parents. Many a time it's because they feel like they're disrespected in the classroom. Here's a profession. This is a profession. You're not treated professionally, right. And they don't have the backing that they need to be able to create an environment that's suitable for learning at the highest level. We have this restorative justice that has made its way into our state, which is it's a bunch of garbage where nobody's.
So talk about that a little bit.
I do want to talk about that
because people don't understand what that is.
It's a redirection, right? Instead of there being a discipline or holding people accountable for their actions, somebody gets sent down to the principal. They may come back into the class the same day. Back in my day when I was growing up, when you got sent out of the principal's office, you were usually reprimanded, in-school suspension, or usually you sent home, especially if it had to do with disrespect for a teacher. Now that same teacher is going to send somebody to the office, and more than likely that kid's going to end up right back in their classroom. And what it does, it creates a message, sends a message to every student in the classroom that we don't have to take this teacher serious. And it's wrong. It's restorative justice. They think, well, we'll redirect. No, we need to hold people accountable for their actions. And it's not happening in our schools. I'm going to give you a scenario.
Well, and you understand that too because of your youth and what happened with you.
And I'm so thankful that I was held accountable for my actions. It's helped me to become the man that I am today. If there was no repercussions, I almost lost everything that matter of fact, I did lose much of what I had, almost lost everything that I had. I needed to go through that process to snap me out of it, to wake up, to help me take steps in the direction that would impact my life for the good and not for the bad. And so this is not to hurt our kids. We want to help our kids by holding them responsible for their actions. But when it doesn't happen, you create a society, like I said, that's just not ready for real life. I work with military young men and women that don't think it's necessary to be to work on time. We're talking about military, right?
Right.
And it's very frustrating to the personnel and people in charge. These are 18, 19-year-olds. Where did they learn that? They got that 7 hours in school. You know what I mean? Spending 7 hours in school. Yes, it's restorative justice. It doesn't work. It only hurts our communities and it hurts our teachers, and it makes it to where it's not just the money. The money's not the only reason why teachers don't want to come and teach. It's because of things like this. And if you have to boil it down, I don't think that teachers leave because of students. They love students, right? They care about students. And if there's the right parameters and boundaries there where they can act and they can be authoritative and be able to teach in their classrooms, it's a beautiful thing for them. But when those parameters are not there, it becomes a toxic environment. So teachers don't leave because of students. They leave because of toxic environments where they don't have the support and the backing of staff and people to really rally around them to give them the support they need to be able to be the authoritarian in their classrooms. They can have an environment where our kids can have a place where they can really learn and grow.
So what is it about Rod Hall that has the unique ability to make some change in our state?
I don't know, other than God in me. I'm just being honest with you. God's given me some gifts, and that's just kind of what we do. We like to bring people together. And I think that the key there is messaging, right? A lot of people don't get a chance to hear from the other side. And I think we need to make sure that teachers have a voice, that parents have a voice, and we bring that together in the middle where both sides are hearing each other. Because right now, you're just throwing darts, you're just throwing jabs at one another, and that's only driving further division. So we have to create a culture. We have to create a culture, and we might do that in the school board with policy. We might do that through messaging from the top down. I've talked to Mike Schultz about this a little bit. Messaging, literally from the top down, where we are communicating with ads to parents about the importance of getting them involved again and engaged again in schools. And when we step in, we have to remember this. We haven't been there, right? So I'm not saying not all parents. Some parents have been there fighting the good fight and going before the board and trying to create these relationships, but it's going to take a collective effort. But when we step into there, we need to step in there with an attitude that says this: I haven't been here, but I'm here now. So where can I serve and how can I help? And I think if parents will enter into that space with that type of a spirit, it will totally revolutionize our schools. If we could get a third of parents to do that, it would transform our schools. It would suddenly bring accountability in all the areas that we're worried about. It's amazing how when people are watching, you do things a little bit differently. You know what I mean? So all the things we're worried about, sensitive materials, all that stuff, when somebody's there watching that has authority, people act differently. It'll bring accountability, and it will instantly bring stability because the authority of parents are stepping back onto the scene in the schools. It'll make a big difference. I think it'll change administrators. It'll change staff because people are afraid to get sued. And sometimes they're afraid that's going to come from the parent. And so I think messaging, communication, teaching, training, all those things are so important. We do something with our parents from our church. We do what's called Parents of Teens meetings where we have training for our parents. You'd be amazed in 2024, a lot of parents are just clueless about how to deal with their teens. And I think we can bring that type of stuff. And it's not always in a spiritual sense, sometimes just very practical. I think that we would offer those things in our community. It would make a big difference for our parents to give them some navigation to help guide them in dealing with their child better. It's a different day. 2024 is a different day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. You know, Rod, there's a light around you, and I really appreciate you running for this position. I think you can do a lot of good, and we're out of time, but I want you to look over there, and I want you to ask people. Tell them why Rod Hall should be on the state school board.
Okay. For the last 25 years of my life, it has been for young people. And I love them. I don't think I could put it into bigger words than that. I love them from the inside out. And I believe that we can make a big difference on the state school board. We want to try to create a culture that empowers parents. Parents, I know it's so important to you to make sure that you have a hand and that you're plugged into your child's education. And we want that to be a reality for you. But we also want to create a culture that is supporting and encouraging for teachers. Teachers are the heroes in this story. And they've put up with a lot. I know teachers that have been teaching for 30 plus years that are thinking about quitting just 2 and 3 years from retirement. And so I think parents, we need to try to get on the level where they are and understand what they're going through and how can we jump in and how can we be a part of the solution instead of being a part of the problem, because everything is designed to be built towards making it better for our kids and their future. And then we not just creating an environment that empowers parents and that is supportive and encouraging for teachers, but that is rich in academic excellence for our students. And our students deserve the best. This is Utah, and they deserve the best, and I think we ought to give it to them. So pray for me, vote for me, and I look forward to the opportunity to be able to serve.
Rod Hall. Turn in your ballots before the 25th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod.
I appreciate
you.
Thank you, John.
We'll see you guys next week.